Hello, philosophy class. This is your second video on the ethical argument made by Sugar, also known as Cheryl Strayed, in Transcend. You might get out your paper copy right now so you can follow along and maybe add notes if you want. I am going to focus on the argument made by Sugar. So I'm scrolling down. This is Sugar's response to Torn. And Sugar is arguing, more or less, that Torn should stay with his daughter. That he shouldn't let his daughter be in the sole care of his wife. So that's my interpretation, at least. That Torn should stay with his daughter. That's the advice. And so why should he do that? What's the argument? So we do have an ethical argument here. And let's go down to the bottom of the first page, this spot here. Let's review this paragraph. Your first obligation as a parent is to protect your child. Let's stop there right now, because remember, Sugar is claiming that Torn should stay with his daughter. And here we have support for that claim. So in an ethical argument, it's not like an empirical argument where you're giving a lot of facts. You're going to give reasons to support your thesis. And those reasons might come in the form of a moral principle. And this right here, highlighted in blue, is a moral principle. Your first obligation as a parent is to protect your child. So let's diagram it real quick to get a clear sense of what's going on in the argument so far. So I'm going to focus on two arguments by Sugar. And this is the first one. Claim, Torn should stay with his daughter. Support, your first obligation as a parent is to protect your child. So Sugar is using this moral principle to support her argument. And of course, you will do that too when you make ethical arguments in this class. Now let's go back to Sugar's argument. Oops. My interpretation of this paragraph is that there's actually two arguments here, not just one. So let's read more of it. Allowing your daughter to move across the country without you, when you know that her mother is a drug addict who is struggling mightily with her recovery, is a bad idea, no matter how many grandmothers and uncles and cousins live across town. I'm going to give this argument a nickname. I'm going to call it the bad idea argument. Let's keep reading. Until your wife is clean and strong in her recovery, she should not be the primary caregiver of your child. I don't question the profound love your wife no doubt has for your daughter, but I know addicts, and you know addicts, and we both know that no matter how wonderful and loving your wife may be, when she's in her addiction, she's not in her right mind. For that, your daughter will suffer and has suffered. It is your duty to shield her from this to the greatest extent possible. So let's call this the bad idea argument. Sugar is arguing that it's a bad idea for Torn to let the wife move across the country or be the sole caregiver of the daughter. So let's think about what that means. This is what we will call a utilitarian argument, because it's arguing about what is right or what is wrong based on the consequences. This is also called consequentialism, which we will study very soon. Sugar is using a consequentialist or a utilitarian argument because she's arguing that letting the daughter go off with the wife will have bad consequences, that it will be harmful. Notice that this is different from this kind of statement of duty in the blue argument here, your first obligation as a parent, that is a moral principle that maybe he should follow, regardless of the consequences. But the rest of the paragraph focuses on the bad consequences that might come from letting the wife be the primary caregiver of your child. This is a utilitarian argument. It's not, in this spot, based on this moral principle. It's based on the idea that it will be harmful, that the consequences will be bad. So this is the bad idea argument, which is a utilitarian argument, and we'll study utilitarianism really soon. Notice that at the end of the paragraph, Sugar comes back to the moral principle. It is your duty to shield her from this to the greatest extent possible. So this is the moral duty to protect the daughter, which was the first argument. So let's look at our little diagrams again. So the first argument was based on a moral principle that your first obligation as a parent is to protect your child. The second argument is the bad idea argument. Letting the wife be the primary caregiver of their child is a bad idea because the wife's an addict and may end up harming the child. So again, it's this idea that letting the daughter go off with the wife will produce bad consequences. And so it's a utilitarian argument. So let's write that here. So we have two arguments in this one paragraph. We have one based on this moral principle, and we have one utilitarian argument based on the idea that if he does a certain thing, it will be harmful. The consequences will be bad. That is my interpretation of this argument. Thanks for watching.